will shape and mold this country, or it will not be molded and shaped at all anymore. So I don't think you have a choice. How can you be an artist and not reflect the times? That to me is the definition of an artist.
The industry-wide secret butchers don't want you to know about. Major suppliers have been caught using a special product known as meat glue to stick together scraps of meat to sell as prime cuts. But while this product has been banned overseas, there's no law prohibiting its use here. Here's Rodney Lowe's with this special investigation.
It's the meat industry's dirty secret, a way of turning the scraps too small to sell as a premium steak back into a juicy, plump eye fillet to sell for a premium price. So clever, you'll never tell. Not even an expert can.
Before, you didn't even pick that as a join, though, did you?
It doesn't even tear through the joint. A bit hard to tell, isn't it? I've just got some fine diced beef and my special enzyme. I'm just going to mix it up a bit.
Why have we got the masks on?
This is dangerous. See that? Don't breathe that in.
This powder is transglutaminase enzyme, otherwise known as meat glue. Meat glues come in a number of forms, some produced by cultivating bacteria, the others, the primary ingredient comes from the blood plasma of pigs and cattle.
Meat glue binds itself to other meats. It actually does the same thing inside your colon.
I added this section about pork because a lot of people believe that they are eating 100% USDA beef, but obviously due to the information that we are going over here shows that a lot of the beef is mixed with pork products. So if it's not, say it's not a religious thing and it is more of a health thing, a lot of people are not getting around their pork allergies, if that's what you want to call it, due to the fact that the beef, a lot of beef, is still mixed with pork today.
Trichinella spiralis is usually transmitted through raw or undercooked pork products, so ensuring that your pork is cooked all the way through will help to prevent acquiring this type of infection. Trichinella infection can cause a variety of symptoms, ranging from mild or asymptomatic infection all the way up to fatal illness. The most common symptoms would be some fever, abdominal pain, nausea, and in later stages of infection, it can cause myalgia, swelling of the face or around the eyes as well. Ensuring that your food is cooked all the way through is one of the best things that you can do to avoid acquiring a foodborne illness. It's not 100% foolproof, but certainly decreases your risks, seeing as most of these things are killed off by heat.
With the Food and Drug Administration working hand in hand, I believe they make decisions to fuel the pharmaceutical industry, but that's just my opinion.
It's used in some restaurant kitchens. This YouTube video shows the process of making a phony fillet. Sprinkle the meat glue, toss the chunks of meat, wrap it tightly, suck out the air, let it set, and then slice. Meat glue stretches meat supply, saves money, and we found the stick, part of the food industry for decades.
Cooked is easy to spot the difference, but cooked is another story.
Okay, so the meat glue one is on the right and the real McCoy is on the left.
And it's not just beef. Pork, lamb, fish and chicken are all stuck back together using this glue.
It looks like one piece of chicken.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yep.
But hard to tell, isn't it?
Particularly that.
On the grill, it's even harder to pick.
So that's the real McCoy. Give this a burl. Nice and tender, nicely salted. All right, let's go for the meat glue. I can't tell the difference.
Pretty good, but potentially dangerous.
I've sort of got two concerns. One that is well publicised, which is misleading people. The other area is the microbial side.
It's why the European Union moved to ban meat glue in May last year. Microbiologist Glenn Pinner.
If this food is sold or represented as a solid piece of steak and you cook it rare, you're really leaving yourself open to get food poisoning.
Once you glue two pieces together, it's difficult to cook thoroughly those parts that were on the outside but are now on the inside.
The amount of bacteria on a steak that has been put together with meat glue is hundreds of times higher.
Meat glue is not an option for any self-respecting butcher.
However, it can be a legitimate staple used in restaurants, cafeterias, catering, and this dish. A scallop covered in chicken skin, bound by meat glue.
If we didn't have the activa in it, it would just fall off into the pan.
Chef Ian Kleiman creates unique dishes. His ingredients, including meat glue, are no secret, but
there are some instances in the industry where they use it to, make products that aren't very good, so.
Basically dupe people.
Yeah, basically dupe people.
We checked, and the Food and Drug Administration says meat glue is generally recognized as safe.
The FDA says it's perfectly safe. It's just, how is it being used?
If you're not safe with it, if you're not practicing, proper procedures, you can certainly get people sick very easily.
This portion of the video discusses the science behind the dangers of the chemical being used, also the great lengths that companies go through to keep you sick.
I was looking at the science. I found a 2013 consumer report that discussed how 69% of raw pork samples were contaminated with a number of different bacteria and parasites, particularly very high in Yersinia enterocolitica, which is a really bad parasite to get. It causes a lot of GI stress, so gastrointestinal stress, diarrhea. I mean, a lot of reports of people die all over the world with this sort of infection. And so it's very hazardous. Also, on top of that, pigs are known to carry tapeworms, which, believe it or not, very common. And once we get tapeworms in our system, they're very hard to eliminate. I work with a lot of clients using parasite protocols in order to help eliminate these things, but it's very challenging in order to do that. Parasites will reduce your immune system and put chronic stress on your body. A lot of these people with parasite infections, they don't sleep well at night because parasites stimulate stress hormones at night. Stress hormones go up, the individual doesn't sleep well. In fact, that's one of the signs that you may have a parasite is, 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, all of a sudden you're wired, right? And you just can't fall asleep. You struggle to fall asleep no matter how hard you try. That is actually a sign, right, that a well-versed clinician will say, possibly there could be a parasite playing a role here. And pork is one of the biggest carriers of parasites. So, we look at the science, it just shows that we've got all these parasites in the animal products. And now we can cook, and we can try to really cook it at a high temperature to kill off as many of these parasites as possible. And that's definitely effective to a degree. But some of the parasites are actually so virulent, they're so resistant that they can survive even high heat. So an animal like pork, again, not a whole lot of vital nutrients that we can't get, really no vital nutrients that we can't get from other animals like lamb, grass-fed beef, consuming bison or wild game, wild-caught fish. We get a much greater nutrient value out of those animals, right, and consuming those than we would out of pork. And then with pork, we're also taking in a high risk for parasites and then other environmental chemicals and toxins as well. But when we barbecue or we cook at a really high temperature, we actually cause a number of carcinogenic chemicals, particularly things like heterocyclic amines and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. And these polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, PACHs, that's produced when we're smoking the meat, right? So the smoke aspect produces these PACHs, which are known carcinogens, right? So they really increase our risk of developing cancer. And then heterocyclic amines, so whenever you've got blackened spots on your meat, that's a buildup of heterocyclic amines, which are basically proteins that have been broken down in a certain fashion, and they become really potent free radicals that cause a lot of oxidative stress and tissue damage in our body. So clearly we don't want that. And then also the carbohydrate in the muscle meat gets burned up and it produces something called acrylamide, which is another carcinogen. So you got 3 of the most potent carcinogens that you are actually producing when you barbecue something. So I'm not a big fan of barbecuing at a really high temperature any sort of meat. And so when we try to do that with pork, we're obviously going to cause problems.